Hello, friends. Welcome back to the More Jody podcast. I'm so thankful to have you here today. As I go through these stages of life and I'm starting to just write all the time, I said to someone the other day, I'm a writer. And they're like, what? I'm like, yeah, like I just feel this push, this pull, this whatever to writing. And so I've been writing so much lately. And the more I write, the more things make sense. And so today we're going to talk about vision planning, where it starts and when everything comes together, where everything comes together. And last week's episode was the precursor to this episode, really sitting in the stuck, gross, sticky middle of rewriting my life vision in 2026 when my last one was written in 2019. And so if you need to go listen to that episode, for sure go do that. But I think we all need a little bit of extra attention in several areas of our life. And until we slow down and take the time, we just don't think about vision. And then suddenly we're not living on purpose. We're living flying by the seat of our pants. So today I'm going to just kind of go through my process, but also get you started on thinking about writing out your life vision. So sometimes something happens in your real life that clarifies everything. And then you realize this is what the episode's all going to be about, right? So this is the background. This is the why. This is where vision actually begins in your thoughts, in your mind, in your writing. And so I had this super weird day yesterday. I was looking at my work from the outside. I was not emotionally involved in what was transpiring around me. Like there was this flurry, but I was like the person I wasn't shaking the snow globe. My coworkers would be like, thanks. No, I was just watching the snow globe and it was weird. And I remember thinking, I have thoughts about this, but I didn't have any feelings about it. But then later on at 9 p.m., I started to cry. I tried to cry in secret because none of my thoughts made sense. But soon my husband was aware of my silent cries, and sharing a bed does that, right? Even if it's a king size. I told him that I was sad because I was so tired, that the kids' schedule was exhausting, that I felt stuck in the upside down of the tech space where I spend my time every day now. And that's confusing to me because my work is always and usually the biggest source of my purpose. And then I think about the fact that I have a son turning 13 this week. And I flash forward 10 years from now when the house is quiet and I'm not dropping kids off at school or sports or youth group. Then I thank God that tonight I dropped a vehicle full of kids off at church in my car. And then I think about how much I saw firsthand the goodness of God working in the lives of my friends this last year. And then I cried because these are things I have prayed for. God answers prayer. Have you started talking to him yet? I don't know what you're waiting for. This life is too full, too hard, too good, too much, not to lay everything before him, to submit to him, and to learn to let him hold you. So I cried and cried, and I think my husband was like, what is even happening right now? Because I'm not a crier, which is like the most confusing part. And I don't know if it's hormones. It's definitely hormones, I guess I should say. It's definitely real life. But I think I've been doing the hard work in the last 3 weeks, looking at my life, thinking about what I want 10 years from now. I have friends who are in their mid to late 50s who are just retiring. Shout out to those girls. I know you listen all the time and I love you. I have parents, my in-laws and my parents in their 70s, navigating empty houses, friends dying, often lack of purpose, not seeing us kids enough, being frustrated by that. I have people obviously in my own stage of life. I have friends, or my sister is like a newly an empty nester. And I feel desperate to help everybody find vision for the season that they're in. I feel this new passion around this because every season of life is going to be hard. It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be all the things. So after all of this crying, I slept like a baby, a thankful, exhausted sleep, but with the realization that my cup is running over. It's too full. And that is far better than too empty. And I realized that all the compartmentalized parts of my life are merging together. I can no longer separate my career, my parenthood, my walk with God, this podcast. I have to speak about them as one. It's just me, one messy, merged integration of all these things. So in the morning, after that deep, beautiful post-cry sleep, I had two sick teens, one 15 and one freshly 13. And as I write this, he still actually has a few hours until his birth time passes. The house is messy because I abandoned my housework to go to bed early and cry. And honestly, it feels symbolic. In a message this morning, my dear friend Erin and co-host of Relentless and Real said to me, "Don't let a bad 10 minutes ruin the next 10 hours." Oh, don't let a bad 10 minutes ruin the next 10 hours. I looked around my cluttered, scattered house, lunches on the counter, sick kids, vitamins, thermometer, and I thought about how today is not how I pictured it to be. And all of a sudden, a voice in my head said, "This is the whole point." I'll call it the Holy Spirit because it's a lot more profound than the usual ramblings that happen in my head. This is it. This mess, these people, this husband, these sweet boys, these sweet young men. That's it. It's everything. What I know for sure is that 10 years from now, I will still be loving them. They'll be 25 and 23 in 2036. And even as I type this, it makes me want to barf. Isn't that? It's like time plus legacy, right? These kids are my whole legacy, but I don't live my life with that framework in the front of my mind. So I'm messaging a friend last night who's struggling with the ongoing stress of corporate life. It's different than the tech world, but it's worse, I want to say, but no matter what, it's a ton of pressure. And yeah, there's so much I could say about corporate life and work life and all that, but I asked her something I've been asking myself. I said, "Do you ever sit and look at your stressors and attach a person applying pressure to the image?" Because most of us are squeezing ourselves. The pressure is squeezed by you, by me. Why are we so good at creating stress for ourselves? And I told her that this applies to me too. I worry about problems and then I create problems that aren't even here yet. And this stress is going to take our lives sooner. It's going to steal from us. It's not going to add anything because worry never added to anyone's life. So today I felt compelled to come on here and give you one tangible thing, because this is where vision planning actually begins. Not with goals, not with hustle, but with honesty. What or who matters most to you in this world? And do you live like that is true? What or who matters most to you in this world? Are you spending your time focusing on what matters most, on what has eternal impact, on what is your legacy? These kids are my legacy. Pouring into them, praying for them, challenging them. This is where I make my mark on the world. And I hope truly that I'm making my mark on you too, helping you live better, braver, more focused lives. Even from my little corner of the world where I sometimes cry myself to sleep because life is too good, too hard, and too much. So my advice for you and for me today is to take some time, sit back, and refocus your heart and your mind. When your mind is heavy, which let's be real, when is it not? These are my Bible verses for you. So 1 Peter 5, verses 6 and 7. "Humble yourselves, therefore, under God's mighty hand, that he may lift you up in due time. Cast all your cares on him because he cares for you." The world is selling you a lie that vanity, popularity, money, status, and pleasure are what you seek. And it's a false bill of goods that never delivers. Romans 12 verse 2 says, "Do not conform any longer to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." Now, I just realized part of that verse cut out from my Google Doc. So I'm going to keep reading. After that, it says, "Then you will be able to test and approve what God's will is, his good, pleasing, and perfect will." And then later in that chapter, it says, "Be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer." Sometimes these busy years, muddled with hormones, health concerns, or just trying to stay healthy, exercising, aging parents, demanding jobs, confusing jobs, and constant distraction, we lose the real prescription. And it's actually very simple: be joyful in hope, patient in affliction, and faithful in prayer. That is where vision starts, not with doing more, but with seeing clearly what already matters.
So let me simplify this because it's kind of hard to explain as a podcast, but I think it's worth doing. So, because vision doesn't need to be complicated to be powerful. Okay. So it's actually really simple. And instead of starting with a bunch of questions, we start with categories. So I recommend picking 4 main areas of your life. So there's no right list. You get to choose, but I'll tell you the ones that I always come back to. So for me, I look at relationships. And then I further break that down to my relationship with God, my marriage with my husband, and my relationship with my kids. Or for you, it could be like, it depends on the relationships in your life and what you want from them, what you want to give to them, that sort of thing. So if you have aging parents and that are actively needing caregiving, like it might have a section like that, right? And then I look at health, how I feel in my body, my energy, how I care for myself. Because what I'm trying to create is standards for living based on the outcomes that I want. And then I look at work and creation. So, what I'm building, how I'm showing up, and what kind of work I'm doing. And it's current and it's future, right? So you're kind of looking at it together. Then I look at finances and material items. So how I steward my money, what kind of money do I want to have? How do I save to get to that sort of outcome? And how I want to live my life every day. How do I want to feel every day within my finances? And so, yeah, that's what I recommend is if you can't think of 4 categories that you would like to, make this vision around, use those. They're pretty basic and it's your life, right? So you want to pick what resonates the most with you. Now, here's where the clarity comes from. For each category, I want you to think 10 years ahead, not in a stressful way, but in an honest one. I want you to ask yourself things like, what do I want my relationships to look like? What kind of marriage do I have 10 years from now? How do we respond to each other? What do I want my relationship with my kids to feel like? Then you go to the next category. Or like if you want to be someone who's thriving and peaceful, and you're going to have to put some investment in, right? These things don't just happen. And we know that from living the last number of years we've lived, that without action, we stay in the same spot. So then when you want to look at your physical body, what shape am I in physically 10 years from now? How do I care for myself? What does my health allow me to do? So, as you start to shape these ideals of what you want in your body, you start to realize how you have to apply yourself for that. And then I look at what I'm doing in business. What do I want to be doing in business 10 years from now? Or what am I creating? So maybe you're on track to be the VP at a company, or maybe you have launched a business and you're an entrepreneur and you have an expectation of X 10 years from now. Or 10 years from now, you're like, I want to sell the business. Well, then you start to see that if you want to sell the business 10 years from now, what does it have to look like to be something someone else wants to buy, right? So it just really gets your mind going. Um, and for me, it's what am I creating? The podcast for me is a creation outlet, like how people might make a craft. This for me feels like a creative outlet. So, what am I creating in my life? And how does my work fit into my life? Do I work long hours and I'm at the office and I'm with the team and that sort of thing? Or, am I building a team? Do I have a team right now of 2 people and I want to build it to a team of 5 people? Like, what do I want from my business? How do I want my work to fit into my life? Maybe you think, you know what? My goal is that I work 5 hours a day. I get up, I start with a workout, a slow coffee. I go for a walk and then I shower and go to work. Or, like there are different ways based on what you want your life to look like. And what does my financial life look like? What kind of freedom do I have 10 years from now? What kind of stress do I not have anymore? Right? So teaching your mind, like, oh, I would like to be done with this or that, and just write unapologetically, just write without judgment, just write. Don't worry about your wording. Don't worry about your grammar. Don't worry about how you'll get there yet. Just write what you dream these categories to be 10 years from now. And once you start, it will begin to flow. Um, so here's the magic part. Once you write it out, something shifts in you. You realize you've already chosen this life. You choose this husband, these kids, you choose this calling. And if you know what you want from these relationships and this life long term, then the next step becomes obvious. You have to work on them. You have to show up for them. You have to build them on purpose. And the same goes for every area of your life. Vision isn't about fantasizing, it's about deciding and then aligning your daily life with what you've already chosen. So here's your simple action step from this episode. Tonight or sometime this week, pick 4 categories of your life. Look 10 years ahead in each one. And you can even do this like sitting on the couch without paper at first, just to see what starts to come up. And then you write down what you want your life to look like. That's it. Don't perfect it. Don't overthink it. Don't share it with anybody. Just get it out of your head and get it onto paper. Because the more clearly you choose your life, the more naturally you start to build it. So with this, you're creating these mental images. You're removing barriers. You're starting to see what's possible. And it, like, I think a lot of times people think if you're going to write a vision, it means, you're looking to be a millionaire, you're looking for something fancy. No, you just want a life well lived that you didn't waste. You have this one beautiful life. And the more I find for myself, because I've lived unintentionally and I've lived intentionally, and intentional living has given me such a deeper satisfaction, especially as it pertains to my relationships. Kind of an interesting thing is when I was in my 30s, I had little kids, and young moms are often like desperate to get out of the house, desperate to get a night away, those sorts of things. And I remember looking at what I wanted out of my relationship with my kids and that sort of thing when I first did this. And I realized in doing it that if I wanted the type of relationship I wanted with my kids, I was going to need to stop leaving every evening. Like, that sounds funny, but I would have a night where I met a friend. I would have a night where I volunteered at the church. I also like sang on a worship team at church. So like multiple nights I was gone. And I realized pretty quickly I needed some like standards around being home with my family. And it sounds crazy, but I didn't come to that conclusion until I thought ahead to the vision that I have for the way my family, the way we interact with each other, the way we love each other, the way we spend time together. I had to start building that foundation. I couldn't keep leaving to make that happen. I wasn't going to have the outcome I wanted. So it really shows you how your actions and your outcomes, if and how they align. So if you want to talk to me more about this, I'm looking for a few people to run some vision sessions with. So reach out if you'd like to kind of go through that with me. It's morejodypodcast@gmail.com, and I'd be thrilled to talk to you. And then my request is, please share this podcast with your friends. I don't know if you know this, but growing anything with the algorithms of Instagram and social media is really frustrating. And so I love this mighty little podcast, and I just hope that you would share it with someone and help me make it a bigger success, because that is one of my long-term goals, spreading more joy, more hope, and putting it out into the world. So thanks for listening. Thanks for being here with me today. Let me know what you thought of this episode. Have a great day.